Have you ever ignored a strange feeling in your body, brushed it off as just getting older, only to later wish you had paid closer attention? What if I told you that one overlooked moment, one dismissed symptom, could change everything? You see, aging brings wisdom, but sometimes it also brings silence. The silence of signals ignored, of pain endured quietly, of red flags mistaken for just a bad day. But here's the truth, and I want you to really take this in. Your body speaks before it breaks, and sometimes it screams in whispers. Today we're not here to talk about illness. We're here to talk about awareness, about how Buddhist philosophy teaches us to live in tune with the present, starting with the one thing we often take for granted, our own body. This isn't fear-mongering. This isn't alarmist. It's about listening deeply. Just like we're taught in Buddhism to observe our breath, our thoughts, our suffering, we must also observe the body. Because your body is your teacher too, it carries the story of your life. But it also leaves clues about what's coming next. In this episode of Quiet Wisdom, we're going to explore 7 urgent warning signs your body gives when something is wrong. Signs that should never be ignored, especially in our golden years. These signs don't just affect you. They affect the people who love you. Your spouse, your children, your friends. Your presence in their lives is a blessing. And recognizing these signs early can help you remain the strong, wise presence they look up to. Now, some may say, aren't we all meant to grow old and pass on? Isn't this just part of life? Yes, impermanence is a central truth in Buddhism. But impermanence doesn't mean neglect. It means we cherish each breath, each heartbeat, each sunrise, because they are fleeting. Others might ask, isn't it selfish to focus so much on our body? But in the words of the Buddha, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Taking care of your health is an act of compassion, not just for yourself, but for everyone whose lives are better because you're in it. So today, let's walk this path together. We'll blend science and soul, medicine and mindfulness. We'll share real stories, and we'll see how the quiet teachings of the Buddha can help us recognize the urgent messages our bodies try to send. Take a deep breath. Open your heart. Let's begin the journey, not with fear, but with fierce awareness and gentle courage. Because sometimes the path to peace begins with a trip to the hospital. Let's explore the 7 signs you must never ignore, and how Buddhist wisdom can guide your response to each one. Sign 1. Slurred speech or facial drooping. When the body whispers for help, listen before it shouts. It started like any ordinary morning. The sun rose softly through the blinds. The birds outside the kitchen window were chirping their familiar tune. Robert, a 68-year-old Vietnam veteran, poured himself a cup of coffee and leaned back into his favorite chair. But as he lifted the mug, his hand gave way. The cup fell, shattering on the tile floor. He called out for his wife, but what came out of his mouth wasn't quite right. His words were tangled, slurred, like they were tumbling over each other. And then she saw it, his smile, crooked and unfamiliar, like half his face had forgotten how to move. She didn't hesitate. She didn't wait to see if it would pass. She called 911, and thank goodness she did. Doctors later told Robert that every minute during a stroke, nearly 2 million brain cells are lost. Every second counts. Every moment of indecision can be the difference between walking or not walking again, between speaking or silence, between remembering and forgetting. Now let's pause here and reflect, not just on the biology, but on the wisdom behind it. In Buddhism, we are taught the power of mindfulness, the sacred act of paying attention, of being fully present with what is. But mindfulness isn't just about lighting incense or sitting quietly in meditation. Sometimes, mindfulness looks like noticing a slight change in how we speak, or the droop of a smile in the mirror. It's noticing when something in the body no longer flows the way it used to. You see, our bodies are not enemies to battle. They are teachers. And just like the Buddha encouraged us to observe our breath, our thoughts, and our emotions without judgment, he would surely remind us too to observe our physical signs with the same compassionate attention. For many older adults, especially those of us who've weathered a lifetime of aches and pains, it's easy to shrug things off. "I'm just tired," we say, or "it'll pass." But in moments like Robert's, waiting could mean losing your voice forever. Not metaphorically, but quite literally. There's a gentle Zen saying, "When the wind blows, don't blame the leaves for moving." The slurred speech, the drooping face, these are the leaves. The real wind is the stroke beneath them, invisible but urgent. And when that wind rises, we must act. In the West, we use the acronym FAST: face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty, and time to call emergency services. But perhaps we can also think of it through a Buddhist lens. Face as the outer mirror of the soul, arms as symbols of action, speech as the expression of inner truth, and time, yes, time, as the great impermanent master we must never take for granted. So, dear listener, if ever your words come out wrong, if your smile fades from one side, if your arm doesn't lift quite right, don't lie down. Don't wait and see. Don't try to be strong. Be wise. Be compassionate with yourself. Call, go, act. Because sometimes the greatest act of mindfulness is picking up the phone. Sign 2. Sudden chest tightness or pain. When the heart whispers, don't turn away. Helen had always been strong. At 74, she still prided herself on doing her own grocery shopping, tending to her roses, and keeping up with her book club. That day had been like any other, quiet, slow, peaceful. She had just settled into her recliner with a well-worn mystery novel when she felt it. It wasn't sharp, it didn't knock the wind out of her, it was more like a tightness, a curious pressure low in her chest, a heaviness. Maybe it's gas, she thought, or maybe it's that shrimp from lunch. But deep down, something felt different, something felt off. Her instinct told her to call her daughter. Within 30 minutes, they were on their way to the hospital. Within the hour, doctors confirmed she was having a mild heart attack. Mild, but if she had waited, it could have been her last. Here's the thing, we grow up learning to be tough, to push through discomfort, to not make a fuss. Especially as we age, there's this quiet pressure to minimize, to assume every ache is just part of getting older. But the heart doesn't always scream when it's in trouble. Sometimes it whispers, softly, briefly, just once. And if we're not listening truly, mindfully listening, we might miss our only chance to respond. In Buddhist philosophy, the heart holds a sacred place, not just as a physical organ, but as a symbol of compassion, presence, and emotional truth. The Buddha spoke often of the heart, not in terms of muscle and blood, but in terms of awareness, of feeling deeply and honestly what arises within us without judgment. When our heart is in distress, physically or emotionally, the first step is not fear, it's not denial, it's listening, it's breathing, it's noticing, and from there, it's taking compassionate action. Let me share something from a Dharma talk I once attended. The body is a temple, but the temple too needs repair. A cracked wall will crumble if left ignored. But if we tend to the cracks when they first appear, the temple will stand strong for many more seasons. Chest pain, even if it's vague, dull, or unusual, is not a wall to be ignored. It is a crack worth investigating. And for older adults, heart attacks don't always look like they do on TV. There may be no collapsing, no clutching of the chest, no dramatic fall to the ground. Instead, it could be a light sweat, a fluttering in the chest, a wave of nausea, or just a feeling that something isn't right. What does Buddhist wisdom say about this? It teaches us that clinging to certainty is suffering. In moments like this, we must release the ego that says, "I'm fine." We must let go of the pride that whispers, "Don't make it a big deal." And instead, we hold on to curiosity, gentleness, and the will to investigate with love. Because it's not weakness to seek help, it is wisdom, it is courage, and it is a powerful expression of self-compassion. So the next time your heart speaks, whether it's a whisper, a flutter, or a quiet pressure that makes you pause, don't silence it. Ask it what it needs. Breathe, listen, and above all, act. Because sometimes loving yourself begins with taking your heart seriously. Sign 3. Shortness of breath without exertion. When breath becomes a prayer for help. Walter had always been a man of routine. Every evening after dinner, he'd settle into his recliner, remote in hand, to watch his favorite westerns. It was a quiet joy, a rhythm he had followed for years. But one evening, something was different. He hadn't climbed stairs. He hadn't taken a walk. He wasn't moving at all. Yet suddenly, as he sat watching the screen, he felt a tightness in his chest, not painful, but unnerving. He tried to take a deep breath, but it felt like breathing through a straw. Panic didn't come right away. It was more like confusion, discomfort. Then came the lightheadedness. His daughter, who had stopped by to bring over some pie, saw his face go pale. She didn't wait. She helped him to the car and drove him straight to the ER. There, doctors found a blood clot in his lungs. It was small, but it was deadly. Had he gone to sleep that night without help, he might never have woken up. Shortness of breath. It sounds simple, ordinary. We all feel winded sometimes after climbing a hill, chasing a grandchild, laughing too hard. But the kind of breathlessness that strikes without movement, the kind that finds you sitting still, that's different. That's your body waving a red flag. And in the gentle teachings of Buddhism, breath is sacred. It is the anchor of meditation, the gateway to mindfulness. The breath is the thread that ties this moment to the next. When your breath changes, suddenly without cause, it's not just a physical warning, it's also a spiritual bell. Something is out of balance. Something inside is calling for help. We mustn't brush it off, not as old age, not as just a little tired, because when breath becomes struggle, it's time to stop everything and listen deeply. In Buddhist tradition, anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, is one of the most profound practices. It teaches us to return to the breath over and over again, to find peace, to find clarity. But what happens when the breath itself feels threatened? That too is a moment of mindfulness, not in stillness, but in action. To notice, to accept, to respond. Let me tell you something you may have heard before, but perhaps forgotten. The breath is life, and life, dear friend, is fragile. As we age, the lungs may weaken, the heart may tire, and yet the breath keeps us rooted here, one inhale at a time. So when it suddenly feels out of reach, we must not delay, even if it passes. Even if you think it might be just nerves. If you find yourself gasping for air while sitting still, while lying down, while simply being, you owe it to yourself and your loved ones to seek help immediately. Because when you cannot breathe with ease, you cannot think clearly, you cannot speak freely, and you cannot live fully. So the next time you feel your breath leave you when it shouldn't, when the room feels too small or your chest feels heavy, don't ignore it. That breath you're fighting for may be your body's most urgent prayer. answer it. Sign 4. Unusual confusion or sudden disorientation. When the mind grows foggy, don't wait for clarity. Linda had always been sharp. Even at 80, she remembered birthdays, anniversaries, and the exact number of sugar cubes in her neighbor's tea. She still balanced her checkbook by hand and read the newspaper every morning, pen in hand, for the crossword puzzle. So, when her neighbor found her standing in the hallway of their apartment building one morning, fully dressed but looking lost, unsure of why she was there or what day it was, everyone knew something wasn't right. Her daughter thought it was fatigue. Maybe she'd skipped breakfast. Maybe she was dehydrated. But the ER doctors found something else. A urinary tract infection. An unlikely culprit, quietly causing a state of confusion called delirium, with fluids and antibiotics. Linda was back to her witty, crossword-loving self within days. But had they waited, things could have been very different. In the minds of many, confusion is seen as part of just getting older, a little forgetfulness, a moment of mental fog. But sudden confusion, especially when it strikes someone usually clear-headed, is not something to take lightly. This kind of abrupt mental shift can signal a serious medical condition, a stroke, a brain infection, dangerously low oxygen levels, or even a reaction to medications. And here's where Buddhist wisdom speaks to us, softly, but with urgency. The Buddha taught that the mind is the forerunner of all things. Every action, every word, every intention begins in the mind. So when the mind becomes clouded, when thoughts turn to confusion, when orientation slips away, it's not just a sign of aging. It may be a signal of suffering beneath the surface. Imagine the mind as a clear, still pond. Thoughts float like lotus petals across the water, but when illness strikes, it's as though a storm has disturbed the surface, rippling the clarity, making it hard to see what lies beneath. As caregivers, as family, as wise elders ourselves, we must notice when the water changes. Is your loved one repeating questions over and over? Are they forgetting where they are? Are they struggling to follow a simple conversation? Or are you noticing this shift in yourself? Then pause. Don't wait for it to pass. Don't assume it's just a bad day. In Buddhist practice, we're taught to observe without judgment, but not without action. Compassion means we don't look away from suffering, and that includes confusion, especially when it comes on suddenly and doesn't feel like someone's usual self. One Zen teacher once said, "When a bell rings in the distance, it may sound soft, but it still calls you to attention." Sudden confusion is that distant bell, a signal, a sacred call to act. And here's a gentle truth we must face. The aging brain is vulnerable. Even small imbalances like dehydration, low blood sugar, or a common infection can send the mind into a spiral. But vulnerability does not mean helplessness, not when we act, not when we listen, not when we care enough to say, "This isn't like you, let's check it out." So if you or someone you love suddenly seems not quite there, if names get lost, or places feel unfamiliar, if sentences trail off, or thoughts come out jumbled, let Buddhist compassion be your guide. Don't wait for clarity, seek it, because sometimes the fastest way back to peace of mind is a visit to the ER. Sign 5. Severe or sudden abdominal pain. When pain comes like lightning, don't wait for the storm to pass. Frank was the kind of man who didn't complain. At 72, he still fixed things around the house, mowed his own lawn, and rarely, if ever, visited the doctor. "It'll pass" was his favorite phrase. He said it about backaches, sore knees, even the sharp jabs in his belly. He started feeling one evening after dinner. That night, the pain hit harder, a sharp stabbing sensation in his lower abdomen. But being the tough man he was, He popped an antacid, lay down and told himself to sleep it off. By morning, Frank could barely move. The pain had spread. He was pale, sweating, and too weak to stand. His daughter called for an ambulance. In the ER, doctors discovered that part of his intestine had twisted, cutting off its blood supply. He needed emergency surgery. He survived, but the surgeon's words echoed in the recovery room. If you'd waited another hour, we might have lost him. Abdominal pain is tricky. As we grow older, we chalk it up to digestion, gas, or something I ate. But sharp, sudden, or unrelenting pain in the stomach area isn't something to guess about. It could be a perforated ulcer, a ruptured appendix, pancreatitis, internal bleeding, or a blocked or twisted intestine. Like in Frank's case, none of these wait, and neither should we. In Buddhist thought, pain is not to be feared, but it is to be understood. The Buddha taught that suffering is an inescapable part of life, but that doesn't mean we must endure it unnecessarily. Mindfulness of the body, Kayanapasana, teaches us to observe sensations with care, with curiosity, and with compassion. Pain is not a punishment, it is a messenger, and when that messenger arrives in the form of sharp abdominal pain, we must not ignore it, not even for a night. Let me offer you an image. Imagine your body as a house you've lived in for decades. You know its creaks, its rhythms, its quiet hum, but one night, you hear a loud, unfamiliar crack deep in the walls. Do you wait to see if the house collapses, or do you get up and check? Sudden abdominal pain is that crack in the wall, and yet, so many of us, like Frank, have been taught to tough it out, especially men of his generation. But strength isn't in silence. Wisdom is knowing when silence becomes danger. The Buddha said, just as a solid rock is not shaken by the storm, the wise are not shaken by praise or blame, but pain, real physical pain. That's not blame. That's not stormy emotion. That's the body's wisdom, crying out for help. If that pain is severe, if it comes on fast, if it doesn't go away, go. Don't guess, don't Google, don't wait for it to pass. Because in this case, waiting isn't patience, it's risk. And you, dear one, have too much life, too many stories, and too many people who love you to gamble with that. Sign 6. Persistent vomiting or vomiting blood. When the body rejects from within, take nothing lightly. Evelyn always had a strong stomach. At 79, she'd raised 5 children, cooked hundreds of Sunday dinners, and had survived more than her fair share of stomach bugs. So when she vomited after dinner one night, she assumed it was the shrimp. Maybe a little too rich, maybe just something that didn't sit right. But then she saw it, dark flecks in the sink, grainy, rust-colored, like old coffee grounds. She brushed it off at first. Probably something I ate, she whispered to herself. But her grandson, visiting from college, looked at the sink, then at her face. Pale, shaky, unsteady on her feet. He didn't argue. He didn't ask. He called 911. At the hospital, they discovered a bleeding ulcer, one that had been silently growing for months, worsened by the over-the-counter pain relievers she'd been taking for arthritis. Another night at home, doctors said, and Evelyn might not have made it. There's something deeply vulnerable, deeply unsettling about vomiting. It's the body's way of forcefully rejecting what it can no longer tolerate. But persistent vomiting, especially when it's accompanied by blood, is not just uncomfortable. It's not something to wait and see. It's a sign of internal distress, a rupture, a bleed, a breakdown. And in older adults, where the body's systems are more delicate, more reactive, the risks are even higher. Vomiting blood, whether it's bright red or dark and grainy, can point to a torn esophagus, a ruptured stomach, lining, a bleeding ulcer, or even complications from medications. And while it may feel embarrassing, or like something that will pass with tea and rest, it won't. It needs immediate attention. From a Buddhist perspective, the act of letting go is central to the path of peace. But here's the paradox: when the body is letting go against its will, when it is rejecting, purging, crying out, it's not a spiritual release, it's a warning. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha encourages us to observe the body as it is, not to romanticize, not to deny, but to see clearly. Vomiting, especially when chronic, and especially with blood, is your body saying, something inside is breaking. And when something breaks within, the only path forward is compassionate action. Evelyn told her family later, "I didn't want to bother anyone. I didn't think it was serious." But how many times have we all said that? "I'll wait until morning. I don't want to be dramatic. It's probably nothing." But here's what Buddhist wisdom teaches us. Denial is not compassion. Minimization is not mindfulness. And silence, in the face of suffering, is not strength. It's surrender. So, if your body is rejecting food or fluid again and again, if you see blood where there shouldn't be, if your gut tells you something's not right, trust it. Go to the ER. Get it checked. You're not being dramatic. You're being wise. And in that moment, wisdom is the deepest form of self-respect. Remember, you deserve care. You deserve protection. You've taken care of others all your life. Now let your body take care of you by listening to it. Sign 7. High fever with stiff neck and sensitivity to light. When the flame burns too bright, don't let it consume you. Jerry was never one to complain. A retired school principal and lifelong crossword puzzler, he cherished the quiet routine of his mornings. A hot cup of tea, the rustle of the newspaper, and the thrill of chasing down elusive words in the puzzle's black and white grid. But one particular morning, the words refused to come. Instead, Jerry found himself wincing from a splitting headache. Not just discomfort, it felt like pressure building in his skull, like something was pressing from the inside out. He tried to tilt his head to look down at the puzzle, but was met with an unbearable stiffness in his neck. The light from the kitchen window, usually soft and golden, stabbed at his eyes. By noon, he was shivering, burning with fever, nauseous, confused. His neighbor, a retired nurse, took one look and didn't waste a second. She drove him to the ER herself. The diagnosis: bacterial meningitis, a dangerous infection of the brain's protective lining. Fast action saved Jerry's life. Most people associate meningitis with children or college dorms, but it can strike older adults too, especially those with weakened immune systems or other ongoing health conditions. And when it does, it moves quickly. Too quickly. The symptoms: a high fever that comes on fast, an inability to bend your neck, a pounding headache, sensitivity to light or sound, confusion, vomiting, even hallucinations. And the most dangerous thing about these symptoms: they often come together, suddenly, ferociously, and without time to waste. In Buddhism, fever has always held symbolic meaning: the fire of craving, the heat of desire, the burning that disturbs the mind. But when this heat turns literal, when your body is aflame from within, it becomes a signal not of spiritual imbalance, but of physical danger. The Buddha taught that when the fire arises, we must tend to it, not with fear, but with presence, not by turning away, but by showing up fully to care for what is vulnerable. And what could be more vulnerable than the brain, the seat of consciousness, memory, and self? Picture your nervous system as a sacred temple. It's where your thoughts are born, where your love is felt, where your wisdom resides. Now imagine that temple being flooded by infection, the sacred space inflamed. That's what meningitis does. And when it knocks, when the fever spikes, the neck tightens, and the world becomes too bright to bear, you mustn't wait for clarity. You must act in faithful urgency. Jerry later said, "I thought I was just run down. Maybe I didn't sleep enough. I had no idea my life was hanging by a thread." But that's how it happens, isn't it? Illness doesn't always announce itself with sirens. Sometimes it taps gently, hoping you'll listen. From a Buddhist perspective, interdependence teaches us that your suffering is never just your own. When you delay care, the people who love you suffer too. Your daughter who checks in every night, your neighbor who brings groceries, your friends who miss your stories. You matter. And because you matter, when your body burns with fever and aches from the inside out, don't wait for permission to get help. Give yourself that permission, that compassion, that Dharma-informed courage. Let's end this section with a reflection drawn from the Dhammapada. Health is the greatest gift, contentment the greatest wealth, faithfulness the best relationship. So when your body is in flames, don't deny the gift. Don't wait for the blaze to grow. Seek the healing that allows you to return to yourself, to your loved ones, to this precious present moment. Final reflections: wisdom, compassion, and the gift of being here. Take a deep breath with me and just pause for a moment. If you've stayed with us through this entire journey, then you've already done something incredibly important. You've chosen awareness over avoidance, mindfulness over denial, and compassion over pride. We've talked today about 7 powerful messages your body might send when something is wrong. A slurred word or a crooked smile that could point to a stroke. A tightness in the chest that might be your heart's quiet cry for help. Breathlessness that arrives uninvited, even while resting. Confusion that surfaces out of nowhere, like a fog that suddenly rolls in. Sudden abdominal pain that cuts through like lightning. Vomiting, especially with blood, that signals distress deep within. And a fever with a stiff neck that could be a fire in the brain itself. Each of these signs is not meant to frighten you. They are meant to awaken you, to remind you with love that you are still here, that your presence matters, and that your body, no matter its age or where, is still trying to protect you. In Buddhist practice, we speak often of the preciousness of this human life. The Buddha said, "Rare it is to be born as a human, rarer still to hear the Dharma, and rarest of all to practice it." Your time here, your stories, your laughter, your quiet strength is not just a passing moment. It is a sacred opportunity, and that means your well-being is not a burden. It's a responsibility wrapped in love. So I invite you, dear friend, to ask yourself, when was the last time I truly listened to my body without brushing things off? If my body were my dearest friend, how would I care for it differently? What would it mean to treat every ache, every sign, every whisper as something sacred? You see, wisdom isn't just knowing the teachings. Wisdom is knowing when to apply them, even in the ER, even when you're scared, even when you're not sure if it's serious enough. And compassion, it's not just what we give to others, it's what we offer to ourselves when we say, "I deserve help, I deserve care, I choose life." So please carry this video in your heart, like a gentle reminder. Let these signs be not just warnings, but invitations. Invitations to be more present, to be more loving, to stay here a little longer, a little stronger, a little more awake. And if you found this video meaningful, if something in it stirred something in you, I gently ask, will you subscribe to our channel, Quiet Wisdom? Not just to support us, but to stay connected to this journey, to this community, and to the quiet truths that help us live with more grace. Your support helps us continue creating content that informs, uplifts, and inspires, especially for those walking the later chapters of life with courage and calm. Feel free to share in the comments what resonated with you most today. What will you carry with you into tomorrow? Until next time, may you walk gently, may your breath be steady, may your heart be at ease, and may you always, always remember you are not alone on this path. Thank you for being here, and thank you for still being here, and thank you for still being here.